one of my favorite people to talk to in this industry, the first guy I'm buying a drink to at our next live cannabis conference, Michael Mills, CEO and director of Body and Mind. How are you, my friend?
Patrick, I'm well. How have you been?
Great. I can't wait till we get to do these things live again. And I think that's coming sooner rather than later. But I know that you're always there. You're always with me networking, and I appreciate it. So I just want to say it's great to see you. For those in the chat, it's BAMM, the ticker on the CSC, and BMMJ on the OTC. Michael Mills, take it away, my friend. I'm sure we'll have some questions for you.
Yeah, you bet. And hey, I thought that was a great panel. I got a chance to listen in to the last section. You guys do such a great job bringing fantastic companies, smart people, and really allowing investors to understand this business. And I'm continually, we're immersed in this business as cannabis executives and business people, but I'm always amazed at how many people, still consider cannabis, oh, I thought it was illegal, I can invest in it. And I think that there's a lot of eyes being opened. Obviously, the major media, we're seeing some articles from the major media here. We're seeing some blockbuster combinations. The True Leaf Harvest combination, I think, really opened a lot of people's eyes that this is turning into a very large business. And, if you go back 6 months and you think about the cannabis, where the cannabis business looked, we wouldn't be looking at a lot of the states that have moved in issues of forward to have legal medical, legal adult use, and certainly some of the larger East Coast states. So I think that, there's a lot of progression that's been made in the last 6 months, and we're looking forward to taking advantage of some of the opportunities there. So
I could not agree with you more, man. And I can't wait to hear how you guys are going to do it. I'll jump out of your way.
What a great way to, have this sort of segment of this conference kick off by having, Republicans submitted bill for cannabis legalization yesterday. And I think that really speaks volumes about how normalized cannabis is becoming, not just from a usage standpoint, but also from a business standpoint. But let me get into our presentation here and tell you a little bit about Body and Mind. Just having a bit of there we go. So we will talk about, there will be forward-looking statements. This is the disclaimer. If you want to read the disclaimer in detail, please visit our website and you can take a look at this. So a very quick view of Body and Mind. We've been around for roughly 6 years. We have distribution, cultivation, and or production in Nevada, Ohio, California, and Arkansas. These are all generally limited license markets, and I'll go into a bit more detail as to what those limited license really means. So our vision is very simple. We identify ways to get into, generally low-cost ways to get into new markets. And we've been successful with license applications in the past. That's really how we've built this company, is winning applications, developing those, whether it's a retail dispensary or cultivation or a production facility, developing those efficiently and getting them to cash flow positive as fast as we can. We also look at acquisitions, and I'll go into a little bit more detail on acquisitions down the road. Our six odd years of history in this business gives us a lot of experience in the cannabis business, allows us to not only optimize our operations quickly when we're setting them up, but it allows us to go in and look at potential acquisitions and understand, can we add value here? Is this facility been built properly? Is this a sort of opportunity we want to walk away from? Really moving on from optimization to assessing, because we've been early entrants into new states as they've opened up. And when I say opened up, I mean, in Ohio, we were one of the first dozen dispensaries to open in that state. It gives us some feet on the ground. It gives us some understanding of the cannabis community in each of those states, and allows us to assess opportunities that may come up in those states. But it also allows us to understand, who we might want to work with, who we don't want to work with, and really gives us a set of opportunities that I think are challenging for other groups to come from out of state or from out of market. And, I think that one of the things that we've always prided ourselves on is execution. If you go back and take a look at what we said we would do over the last couple of years, we've done them all, and really looking forward to continuing our growth strategy here. I'm going to go into each of our states in a little bit more detail. Nevada is our home state. It's where we started. We won licenses as that state legalized for medical. And, I look at Nevada as a microcosm of really what's happening in the States. If you went back in sort of 10 years ago in Nevada, it was the only state where you could have a felony conviction for any amount of cannabis. So it was very illegal. Cannabis was very illegal in Nevada. When medical came in, it was a very small market. I think there was less than 10,000 cards in the first year that the state legalized. But it moved from medical to adult use very, very quickly. And we were ready. We received one of the first cultivation and production licenses in the state, built them out very quickly, got good at cultivating with some great strains, and won a number of awards. We've won High Times Awards, we've won Las Vegas Awards, we've won Emerald Cup Awards. So, we really focused on great product. And we also focused on extracts. And at that point, extracts were still fairly new. So it allowed us to get really good distribution into all the dispensaries in Nevada. And, that was a very small market. And as that market grew, obviously our brand grew, and we have a strong brand in that market. As we were growing out the Body and Mind brand, we were also looking at new states that were opening up. And I'll get into a bit more detail in just a minute. So to give you an overview of what we're doing in Nevada right now, we've got roughly 70 SKUs that we offer. We started with roughly an 18,000 square foot cultivation facility that also had our kitchen and then had our production facility as well. As we continued to grow, we moved the production to a brand new facility, and we did that last year, and had started taking over the rest of that original facility with new flowering rooms. And we're just actually starting to see that revenue from those new rooms coming on to our income statement now. We continue to have a strong distribution network. We work with other national brands. We work with a group called Her Highness, which is a female-focused brand. Fantastic products. We work with G-Pen, which is a well-known brand as well. And we'll continue working with other white label opportunities to help them expand into the Nevada market. Second market we're in is Ohio. Like Nevada, it's a limited license market. That means they only gave out a relatively small number of licenses. In Ohio, there's actually less than 60 dispensaries, and the population of Ohio is 11.5 million people. So very, very limited license in those markets. We went into that state with applications with in-state partners who we've since bought out. And we received one retail license, which we opened. We were probably one of the first dozen retail licenses to open in Ohio. It's just west of Cleveland by about an hour and a half, or sorry, half an hour. Huge addressable market. And, what we really like about that market is that it has continued to grow very, very nicely. We also have a production facility in Ohio, which we're probably less than a month away from opening. And we just finished construction a couple of weeks ago. We're getting our final permits on that. It's right next to our dispensary. And when that production facility, or some states call them manufacturing facilities, opens up, that's going to allow us to bring our Body and Mind product portfolio into the Ohio market. So, we have great POS data from our Ohio dispensary, so we know what that market enjoys and what that market buys. We also have great information from our 6 years in Nevada on our product portfolio and what does well there. So really looking forward to getting that launched in Ohio. And again, we'll bring our brand partners with us into that state. The third state we're in is obviously the largest state, California. We entered California through an acquisition, and we bought an operating medical dispensary in Long Beach, and we bought a 60% of a license in San Diego. Now, again, thinking about the limited license environment, San Diego has issued 16 dispensary licenses for a population of roughly 1.4 million people. So we really like those metrics as opposed to other jurisdictions where there's potentially dozens and dozens of licenses for a very small number of people. California is an interesting market where the entire state is legal, but each jurisdiction can enact their rules about how many dispensaries or cultivations or productions are allowed. And there's actually a lot of places in California that don't allow any cannabis operations at all. As I mentioned, we bought the Long Beach dispensary and upgraded that to adult use. It's been doing very well. And we actually opened the San Diego dispensary roughly a year ago, just in time for COVID to hit. So instead of using our huge parking lot to have, bands and a grand opening celebration, we were buying, masks and plexiglass and cleaning supplies. Regardless, that dispensary keeps ticking up and up and up. And, as we see more and more tourism back into San Diego and Long Beach, we expect that to continue to increase. The last state we're in is Arkansas. Again, another limited license state, roughly 3 million people. There were 40 dispensary licenses that were granted. We opened our dispensary roughly a year ago, and we did that with our in-state partner comprehensive care group. We were awarded the best dispensary in Arkansas last year. When we built out the dispensary, we built the dispensary, and then we also built a cultivation on the back end. Wanted to get the dispensary open, cash flowing, and have been working on the cultivation since then. Got our license to start cultivation roughly a month ago. So we have plants growing, and we're probably 20 odd weeks away from seeing our first harvest there. We're really looking forward to that. To give you an idea of our financials, we've had some great growth over the last 3 quarters. We have a fiscal year end that's July 31st. We've gone from roughly $2 million in revenue to $6 million on our last quarter. And we're at a run rate of conservatively roughly $26 million US, with our last 2 quarters being positive adjusted EBITDA. When we take a quick look at our balance sheet, we have roughly 109 million shares outstanding, so a relatively tight float, roughly 130 million fully diluted. We have no long-term debt. Our assets are around $41 million. But just in summary, why Body and Mind? We have near-term revenue growth, and I think anyone who understands this market knows that the compound annual growth rate of the general cannabis market is in the range of anywhere between 18 and 24%, depending on what state you're in, sometimes even higher. I think Colorado, which is considered a mature state, had a growth rate last quarter. I believe it was over 25%. So, we're continually seeing these new consumers come into the cannabis market, and it's really driving sales at a lot of these operations. As I mentioned, we're long-term debt-free. We have a tight capital structure. I think if you go back and look, our last raise was May of 2019, and we've come a long way since then. Exceptional product quality, as I mentioned, that we've won numerous awards for both our flower and our extract. License applications, we're continually looking at new opportunities to apply for licenses, both in the states that we're in and new states as well. We have a track record of winning licenses. We typically do it quietly and work on, and we have numerous license applications in process right now. We are also keeping a very close eye on all the states that are enacting legislation right now, whether it's a medical state or a state that's going to go adult use. There is a lot of opportunity coming up in the next, really, 3 to 24 months as these states move their legislation through and then come up with regs and rules for application. We like having a diverse asset base across a number of states. We figure that gives us a good amount of stability. As I mentioned, we've been successful in executing on our strategy. If you go back and take a look at what we said we would do, we have executed maybe a little bit late at times, but it's been great to get these new assets up and running. Our team has a proven track record. We've been in this business for 6 years. We have senior management who came from Colorado long before Nevada was even legal, and we're leveraging that experience to really drive not only innovation at the company but our growth as well. Just give you a quick overview of our management team. Myself, I'm the CEO. I've been in business for roughly 25 years. I've been in media. I've been in manufacturing, technology, and finance. I spent roughly 10 years with the Financial Post newspaper and then the National Post newspaper. Trip Hoffman is our chief operating officer. He's the past CEO of a Colorado cultivation facility, owned his own cultivation facility, and also managed dispensaries in that state. Gave a really, really good understanding of how to not only how to cultivate great cannabis, but how to run a really, really tight operation. He's brought in things like perpetual harvests and stock keeping at our dispensary so that we're not leaving a lot of inventory on the shelf and turning things over really quickly. Really, really a great focus on not only operations, but Trip also came from the fund side and ran a fintech company and certainly understands the capital market side as well. Trip has a PhD in physics from Purdue University and brings a lot of his research and technical experience to every point of our operation. Don Shim's our CFO. He's the CFO. He's been CFO for a number of public companies and has been a great asset to the company. Alexis Podesta is our newest director. She was the past Secretary of Business, Consumer Service, and Housing for the state of California. And her agency was actually involved in moving California from medical to adult use, which was an enormous, enormous job. Really good understanding of the cannabis industry and particularly the California cannabis industry. Brett Reuters, a director who's got a ton of banking and finance experience. He's worked in private capital. He's worked for large banks as well. It's been a great asset to the company. And that's really all I have to say. Again, I think that having this conference the day that we see a bill presented for legalization of cannabis in the United States is almost prescient. And I'd love to take some questions if there's questions out there.
There are, and the irony is not lost on us, Michael. Thank you very much. So one question coming from the chat here. Lots of X's in the name, so we'll call you X. Thanks for your question. Your story is great. Why do you think you're trading at such a discount to your peers? Now, I take this to mean something complimentary, Michael. But how do you respond to that and just sort of the overall state of affairs for you guys?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that trading at a discount to peers is really a function of a couple things here. One, we have a relatively light cash balance. We have been growing the company very quickly over the last year, and we're starting to see those revenues begin to pile up. So I think that when you look at our peers, and when you segment the entire cannabis market and really move down into the microcaps, I think what we've seen really over the last since February, early March, we've seen a lot of the smaller sub 100 million market cap companies really see the effect of the risk off trade at this point. That doesn't mean that it's not going to come whipping back very quickly, but I think that the real focus for a lot of the largest investors has been going after the largest names. What we typically see is we typically see when that happens, smart investors like people who are at this conference are looking for value. They're looking for companies that are adjusted EBITDA positive. They're looking for companies that have a growth plan. So I think that's really where the value is in some of these cannabis stocks, and particularly ours.
Yeah. So, and thank you very much, X, for your question here. But Michael, when it comes to where you guys are now, I was looking at your last reported earnings, right? And I think they were from Q2 fiscal year 21, right? Is that right?
That's right. Yeah. So that would have been period in January 31st of this year.
Awesome. Thank you for that. So for the same time last year, you're up 300% in revenue. And I know you guys have been very conscious to run lean, run efficiently, right? Every time I talk to you, it's like, we want to be good stewards of capital, right? And I love hearing that. I know a lot of the investors who maybe got burned in the early days of the industry love hearing that too. What does that revenue growth mean for you in the company, knowing that you've spent so much time trying to run a tight, efficient ship?
Yeah, look, this is the culmination of our plan, and I think that if anybody who's been investing in this in cannabis for some time will sort of remember what I call the dark year, which was sort of the summer of 2019, almost until the very end of 2020, and when the markets really started to close for capital in cannabis in the summer of 2019, we looked at the money that we had in the bank. We did a raise in May, and we looked at all the projects that we had to build out and get to cash flow positive, and cut everything down to the bone to get that revenue coming in the door. And I think if you look at us in January of 2019, the only facility that we had open was our Nevada facility. So we've brought all these assets online without taking on any debt, without taking on any new capital since then. So I think that, sometimes when you're challenged with these scenarios where you don't want to raise money and you really hunker down and say, okay, we are going to make sure that all the capital we have here is going to get us to a good position. And I think that, it forces you to be really efficient. And I think that we are. I think if you go back and take a look, not only at our January 31st cash position, but the prior period and even July 31st, I think that our July 31st cash position was roughly 1.3 million, and our January 31st cash position was 1.1 million. So we're not rolling through money. We're not spending excessive amounts of money. We have a very lean team. We're doing a lot and behind the scenes as well. And, with the same growth plan that we've had over the last 2 years.
That's great. It's fun to watch these things come to fruition. It really is. So congratulations, man. Really well done. I know we'll hear from you again soon, but thanks for making time today to join us.
You bet, Patrick. Thanks very much.
All right. Take care. BAMCannabis.com, you guys. That's BAMM on the CSE, BMMJ. And thank you, Michael Mills, CEO of Body and Mind.
Have a good one.
All right. Later on, man.